When a family fractures, the legal system is supposed to step in with one very simple, driving purpose: ensuring the children involved maintain their safety, love, and stability. Yet the people who work inside family courts often watch families leave the process worse off than when they entered. Children routinely emerge from litigation parentified, dealing with severe anxiety and stripped of secure attachments, despite interacting with professionals who genuinely wanted to help. This failure rarely comes from malicious actors. The breakdown happens because of a structural failure in how the legal ecosystem processes human information. Instead of resolving conflict, family court acts as a relentless engine of signal distortion. By the time a child's lived reality reaches a judge, it has been warped into something unrecognizable. You can think of it as a high-stakes version of the childhood game of telephone. It begins with a single, clear message, a child's core need, attempting to travel from one person to another. But in family court, that message doesn't make a simple journey. It is intercepted, passed, and rerouted through a labyrinthine network of parents, attorneys, therapists, evaluators, guardians ad litem, and judges. At every single transfer point, the data is altered. Procedural rules, unconscious biases, and human fear chip away at the original signal, filling the transmission with visual static as it degrades. Because each person in this network only interacts with their specific, highly filtered piece of the puzzle, the accumulating distortion goes unnoticed by the system at large. The distortion begins at the very first note. Parents entering the court system are rarely communicating from a place of calm regulation. They are operating in a state of survival, driven by a fear of losing their kids, identity collapse, and mounting financial stress. That level of dysregulation creates intense emotional static. A parent's desire to protect their child mutates into reactive accusations, catastrophizing, and hypervigilant over-documentation. This triggers a critical translation error. When a terrified parent attempts to communicate, "I am scared," the professional receiving that information doesn't hear fear. They hear, "This person is unstable." Right at the entry point, the child's needs become inextricably fused with the parent's emotional survival strategies. The initial data packet is corrupted before it even leaves the home. That corrupted data then moves to the translators. First up are the attorneys. The legal system structurally rewards strategic framing, narrative simplification, and the pursuit of leverage. To build a winnable case, attorneys strip away the nuances of family dynamics. Human pain is flattened into bullet points, cherry-picked exhibits, and adversarial courtroom posturing. Meanwhile, the data also routes through therapists. Well-meaning clinicians often receive an emotionally flooded, one-sided narrative from their clients, with crucial context missing entirely. This creates an unintended trap. A therapist's supportive clinical observation, meant only to validate a patient's feelings in a private room, gets dragged into the courtroom and wielded as an official diagnosis or a legal endorsement against the other parent. By the time the message exits the translators, the child's emotional ecosystem has been replaced by strategic legal positioning and weaponized medical terminology. This fragmented, biased data now squeezes into the system's narrowest bottleneck: overloaded guardians ad litem and judges, who have limited time and rarely see the family interacting in the real world. Facing hundreds of pending cases, these decision-makers succumb to institutional exhaustion. The system becomes desperate to reduce complex human histories into manageable administrative shortcuts. It relies on heuristic labels. Profound human pain is compressed into categories like high conflict, uncooperative, or alienating. Once one of those labels is applied, confirmation bias takes over. Professionals develop a narrative addiction, searching for evidence that supports their initial conclusion and ignoring contradictory facts, because reevaluating the case feels like a threat to their authority. The final judicial ruling is therefore based on an illusion. The judge issues permanent orders based on a solidified false reality, cementing a distorted narrative as undeniable legal fact. This chain reaction ends with the disappearance of the child's authentic voice. Inside the gears of the legal machine, the child's perspective is erased. Children are highly adaptable, and they quickly learn how to survive the adult conflict. They mirror the emotions of whoever they are standing next to, suppress their true feelings to avoid causing trouble, or tell different adults conflicting stories simply to stay safe. This creates a bitter irony. The adults in the courtroom will spend tens of thousands of dollars fiercely arguing over what they claim the child wants. But after months or years of being treated as leverage rather than a human being, the child often no longer knows what they want. This is the failure of the telephone effect. A court can successfully execute every mechanical procedure and legally close the case, while leaving the child's sense of safety and identity deeply fractured. Technical legal compliance is not the same thing as emotional truth. We cannot solve crises of human attachment by relying on procedure alone. To fix this architecture, we have to build trauma-informed, cross-disciplinary systems. We need to mandate procedural speed bumps that slow down the urgency, forcing professionals to separate verified, observable facts from reactive emotional static. Above all, the system requires a foundational shift toward humility. Professionals must be willing to step out of their rigid roles, pause the momentum of the case, and actively question whether they actually possess the complete story. The distortion in the family court system only becomes permanent, and the child only truly loses the exact moment the adults stop questioning the message.